Welcome back to The Truth Hurts, where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. I'm Jake Duesenberg, your host, broadcasting live from Roseville, Minnesota, in the belly of the beast, the liberal zombie apocalypse of Minneapolis and St. Paul. Join me as always, MAGA Jesse. What are we talking about today, MAGA Jesse?
Yep, good to be here and good to hear you. Yeah, we had a little tech problems on that first start, but yeah, no, things are going good, and we got things up and rolling now, so we can get people some news that they're not going to get anywhere else. So first, we'll talk about what's going on in Texas and compare that to what had happened in Minnesota when it comes to no-show Democrat legislators, and it shows two different approaches: the Texas way of handling that, and the Minnesota way of handling that. So we'll discuss what's exactly going on there and comparing it to Minnesota. We'll also talk about Senate District 29. They will be having an endorsing convention today to fill Senator Bruce Anderson's seat. The Republicans will be endorsing a candidate. That convention, like I said, is today. We'll get into all of the candidates that are running for that and what people can expect from that race. And then also we'll talk about an Islamic senator that is praising a Somali child rapist, trying to get the judge to let him off easy because he's involved in the community and whatnot. So we'll talk about what this Islamic Center is, what they said, and who the Somali child rapist is. And then to wrap things up, we'll talk about Israel and Trump probably in the post show, considering the late start.
Yeah, well, we'll see what we can do here. The ticker starts now, Jesse, not from when we tried
Yeah.
before. All right, I want to go to breaking news here. This is actually the DOJ announced. I'm sorry, not the DOJ. The Government Oversight Committee, chaired by Comer. It says Chairman Comer subpoenas Bill and Hillary Clinton, former U.S. Attorneys General, and FBI directors, and records related to Jeffrey Epstein. House Committee on Oversight and Government Reform Chairman James Comer today issued deposition subpoenas to Bill and Hillary Clinton, James Comey, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, Merrick Garland, Robert Mueller, William Barr, Jeff Sessions, and Alberto Gonzalez for testimony related to horrific crimes perpetrated by Jeffrey Epstein. Additionally, Chairman Comer issued a subpoena to the U.S. Department of Justice for records related to Epstein. These subpoenas follow recent action by an oversight subcommittee, which approved motions to subpoena these records and compel witness testimony. On July 23, 2025, Republicans and Democrats on the Federal Law Enforcement Subcommittee approved by voice vote a motion offered by Representative Scott Perry to direct the chairman to subpoena Bill and Hillary Clinton. I already read that list, basically. The subcommittee also approved an amended motion offered by Representative Summer Lee, which is a Democrat from Pennsylvania, by a vote of 8-2 to direct the chairman to subpoena the Department of Justice to release records related to Epstein's case. We talked about that in the show. Okay, Jesse, I'm telling you what, man. It's not a bad story. Okay, I'm not saying that everything is figured out and we can start cheering and popping the champagne open because justice is being served.
I think we might be having some more tech problems. I don't know if I can't see Jake. I can't hear Jake. I don't know if anybody else can see or hear me or what's going on. Looks like it might just be me here. See here in the comments. I see Carol Hexam saying hi, Jesse. Becky Hack says, "Oh, no technical difficulties." It looks like we're having more of these tech difficulties. We're using Rumble Studios, so I would figure that it's a problem on their end because like people probably saw, we had the first beginning of the show, which was not working, and it looks like I'm seeing in the comments. It looks like it's just people being able to see and hear me. That's all right. I guess we'll keep the show going while we're waiting here. People might have been able to see an article that I had recently written on the Senate District 29 race, which is a key Senate race where Senator Bruce Anderson, for the most part, he's had a conservative voting record, and he's been uh, pretty strong when it comes to that regard. And in that race, it's going to be very determinative of whoever wins this Republican primary. It's a Republican seat. Bruce Anderson won by 68% of the vote in the last election. So with that, it's going to go to the Republicans, and this endorsement, which is going on today, is going to help determine who wins that. We're hearing word that there might be a primary regardless of what goes on at today's endorsing convention, but I want to give you guys all of the details surrounding this. So, Minnesota Republican State Senator Bruce Anderson unexpectedly passed away on July 21st, prompting a special election in Senate District 29. This district is deep red that Anderson won 68% of the vote for in 2022, while maintaining a conservative voting record and being a respectful conservative. According to the Wright County GOP website, 5 candidates are seeking the GOP endorsement that will take place tomorrow, or which is today, Tuesday, August 5th. The 5 GOP candidates include failed MNGOP Deputy Chair candidate Kip Christensen, the Wright County Commissioner Tina Dietrich, Delano City Councilman Jason Franzen, business owner Michael Holstrom, and Marine Corps veteran Melinda Mihalov. We'll go with that since I can't tell you exactly how to pronounce her last name. But Rhino Kip Christensen is a Monticello city councilman and a shady political operative who lost against Donna Bergstrom in the race for deputy chair of the MNGOP while running in a so-called unity ticket with Rhino David Hand. In 2020, Kip Christensen fooled a blind, wheelchair-bound veteran into getting on the ballot for Congress under a marijuana-related third political party, and was being funded and paid by the RNC. And he was labeled a political stalker while being paid by the Rhino-funded anti-grassroots MN Jobs Coalition. And Kip also worked to change the MNGOP platform and the RNC platform to abolish pro-life language, which is something that his district likely would not approve of. The idea of Kip being elevated to senator with his stained record, which includes a DWI, should make him unqualified to most conservatives for an office that is so critical for this seat. And Kip has also credited David Hand and globalist Rhino Tom Emmer on the Jack Tomczak show for getting the MNGOP out of debt when it was truly President Trump showing up to the Lincoln Reagan dinner. And because the grassroots had refused to bail the party out of its debt under David Hand. And this is in part due to the 1972-10 Wyoming Corporation that had remained a mystery that was being paid tens of thousands of dollars. And A4L exposed that it was actually run by Kamala supporter Michael Broadcorp, who Kip also had a relationship with. I've got that linked in there. If people want to check out that podcast, they can see that Broadcorp and Kip are tied to the hip there. And another strange relationship with liberals that Kip has had was with Melissa Hortman, who Kip revealed was a friend and a mentor to him on X, following her and her husband's high-profile assassinations. It's very interesting that Kip was willing to put this information online, saying that she was a friend and a mentor to him. We have to wonder what kind of ultra-liberal Democrat Speaker of the House would want to mentor Kip, and what kind of political advice is she giving him, and what is he going to follow? Many Republicans are wondering how close Kip was to others within the Democrat establishment, like Melissa Hortman, and if he is truly keeping that a secret. That tweet was very surprising to a lot of people because, putting her tragic death aside and putting all of that, the issues surrounding that to the side, of course, everybody should be respectful to the dead. But to go out of your way to say that she was a mentor and a friend, it shows that he's got relationships to the Democrats and to the establishment that many people are unaware of. An establishment puppet, Walter Hudson, has inserted himself into this race by calling Kip a, quote, brother in arms through political trench warfare. And additionally, Walter Hudson verbally slapped the hand of candidate Melissa Mihalov for demanding that the GOP endorsed candidate for the Senate be a, quote, strong constitutional conservative. She is a Marine Corps veteran who appears to be a standard line conservative, but unfortunately, she doesn't appear to be perfect either because she looks up to rhinos like Patty Mueller while passing unconstitutional omnibus bills, and she does not appear to be able to rock the boat if elected. But interestingly, Melinda has been endorsed by Gonzalo Duran, the Conservative Party nominee for New York City Public Advocate. So obviously she's got some kind of connection there. It's interesting that we'd see a New York City candidate involve himself in a state Senate special election taking place in Minnesota. And in another Senate campaign, there is Michael Holstrom, who is a small business owner, according to his campaign website, and he unsuccessfully ran for the school board in 2024. Holstrom is also the deputy chair of the Wright County GOP, and many conservatives may hesitate to support Holstrom because he is being supported and endorsed by social media addict Rhino Dustin Grage. And others in the district say not to hold that against him, though. And Holstrom also lost a county commissioner race in 2022, which was ultimately won by another candidate who is running for the Senate, Tina Diedrich. And if voters are looking for an anti-Emmer conservative, they likely won't find it in Wright County Commissioner Tina Diedrich, who poses with rhinos like him and Jim Nash for pictures on social media. And locals tell A4L that the establishment Republicans and Democrats supported Diedrich's run for county commissioner because the primary and race are nonpartisan. And because of that, the Democrats were able to support her as well. That's the word that we're getting from locals. She's additionally the former mayor of Norwood Young America and is clearly well versed within government, as she has served on numerous committees, projects, and boards. While Diedrich certainly appears to be a hard worker and very involved in her community, she does not appear to be a hardcore conservative champion that is going to buck party leadership or stand against them in any meaningful way. She seems like she will go with the flow. And the final candidate seeking the GOP endorsement is Delano City Councilman Jason Franzen, who is also the Wright County GOP treasurer. And from what can be gathered from his social media, he appears to be a pretty standard line Team Red Republican, but unfortunately he shared material like coming from the HRCC and other establishment resources. So Franzen, like all of the other candidates that have been mentioned so far, will have the chance to make his case at the SD29 convention that is taking place tonight at 6 p.m. And in addition to the five mentioned candidates, Rachel Davis has filed for office but is not listed as a participant for the endorsement because reportedly the Wright County GOP alleges that she has not lived in the district for at least 6 months, which she denies. Another person, Nora Grietman, had a website for a Senate candidacy, but the content has since been removed from her website, aside from a title saying, quote, coming soon, and a picture of her campaign logo. The social media accounts linked on her website also do not go up to any working page any longer. So she potentially has chosen either to go straight to the primary or not to run at all. That still remains to be seen. But it does appear that there will be a primary, as it appears Davis will do, and as Mihalov had alluded to on X when she said that there needs to be a strong constitutional conservative that wins the endorsement. And additionally, Nora Grietman, who I had just mentioned, is the Wright County GOP event coordinator, so it may have been a conflict of interest for her to serve as a candidate for this Senate endorsement if she is the one who is actually organizing the endorsing convention. And one Democrat, Louis McNutt, has filed to run for the SD29 special election, but considering how red this district is, that is going to be a long shot with almost no chance. And candidates and politics aside, there are some serious issues with the process of the Senate District 29 special election, because on July 29th, Walz filed the writ of election for SD29 along with SD47, following which is Nicole Mitchell's old district, because Nicole Mitchell finally resigned from the Senate after her jury conviction for burglarizing her widowed stepmother. And Tim Walz scheduled a primary date of August 26th and a withdrawal deadline of August 7th, giving voters very little time to vet the candidates. The general election will be taking place on November 4th, and as A4L has previously exposed, Walz has a history of breaking special election laws to benefit Democrats, and this was even struck down previously by the liberal Supreme Court of Minnesota. And with the timeline and leniency that Walz has in some of these laws, he would have, especially when it comes to scheduling these elections when the legislature is not in session, he could have easily scheduled a primary that takes place in September or October so that voters would have more time to vet the candidates in this unexpected vacancy. And in addition, the Wright County GOP should have perhaps followed the route that was followed in Cass County, Crow Wing, and Itasca counties. Because what they did in the SD6 special election was not hold an endorsing convention and allow the candidates to fight it out in a primary. And many delegates will be unable to attend this convention considering it's such short notice and considering it was unexpected. And also, small portions of Meeker and Hennepin County are also within SD 29. And AFRL is told that certain delegates within those areas did not receive their email for the required convention call, which calls into question whether or not this convention can even be legitimate if the delegates are not properly notified, which is constitutionally required by the MNGOP. So we will inform delegates and we will inform patriots of what goes on at this convention. It should be very exciting. And like I said, the endorsement may not decide who is the Republican nominee, but it usually is a pretty good sign for who will be the Republican nominee. And we'll keep people updated as the story continues to develop.
All right, Jesse, you can hear me, right? Oh no, you can't hear me. Did Jesse really freeze? Oh my God! Can you guys hear me at home? This is crazy.
Sorry, tap my screen, and next thing you know, I'm gone.
Okay, can you hear me, Jesse?
I can hear you.
What is going
I think
on?
the audience can hear you too.
If people are watching the show for the first time, like this does not happen. Like it's
Right.
a rarity. Even when we've had tech issues in the past, it's usually solved pretty quick. Nothing is making sense. It's almost like we're under a cyber attack here. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, something's going on. They don't want the message out.
I like this is not like the craziest show we've ever done. I don't think this is like so hard hitting, that we really need to. Well, long story short, we're going to try to power through this thing. I want to go back to this tweet by Kip Christensen because I would imagine he's the establishment's pick here. We were kind of careful not to talk too much about the outpouring of love and adoration for Melissa Hortman from Republicans in Minnesota after she was killed. Mostly because, like you said, you kind of want to be quiet and give the people that are mourning, especially her children, the decency of not talking. So we obviously did not think highly of Melissa Hortman at all. And, if you're a conservative or pro-liberty person, I mean, she is the reason that Tim Walz had lockdown powers over Minnesota for over a year. She is the person that literally brought in the most extreme abortion laws in the country, allowed transgender surgeries for minors, every bad thing, gun control, all that kind of stuff, growing government out of control, growing government by 36% in 1 year. That's her record. Okay. She is I don't even want to say she's a far left Democrat. She is an establishment Democrat, hater of all things conservative. And here you have a guy that was within votes, a couple of votes, of becoming the deputy chair of Minnesota, openly admitting that she was a mentor and he's been in her home to get mentorship from her. Like that is like the greatest example of the uniparty I've ever seen. And now he wants to be a state senator at the Capitol. Like, guys, if you don't believe what we have to say about the uniparty and how these people are really against you and against liberty in the end of the day, and they love being part of the clique up at the Capitol, just look at their own words. They are telling you that's how the thing goes up at the Capitol. And so to me, I would imagine this would be probably the worst kind of guy to get in. For that very reason, he's just going to be part of the swamp. He's already kind of on the periphery of the swamp to the point where he was. I mean, I can't possibly state this big enough. Like Melissa Hortman was the top-ranking Democrat in the legislature for last 6 years or so, something like that, and that was his mentor. His political mentor was the top-ranking Democrat. He wants to be Republican senator in a deeply Republican area.
And that's the thing. This is going to be a district where a lot of people are going to be remembering Bruce Anderson fondly. It's interesting that I haven't seen Kip put out anything saying how much of a mentor Bruce Anderson was to him, but he is saying that about Melissa Hortman. And I'm seeing a couple of comments here. We see Carol Hexam says Kip Christensen is desperate for any position, and it's funny that he wants to use the Senate as some sort of consolation prize for him not winning the deputy chair position for the MNGOP. I think the people of SD 29 are smart enough to see through that, but he's, of course, a snake and going to do his best at this endorsing convention. I don't have any real insight on how that thing is going to actually shake out because it's all about whoever the delegates are that show up. Those are the delegates that are going to have the power in that situation. So I don't know who's got much of a shot, but obviously we'll stay, up to date and hopefully having people tell us what's going on there. And let's see here. Becky Hack says Carol Hexam seems so. He just started as a Monticello City Councilman, is now ditching them for a Senate seat. Says great article, Jesse. I appreciate that, Becky. And let's see here. And K Wall for Life gives a $10 rumble rant. We appreciate that, saying Walls lies. And that's for sure. We'll have a lot of fun at the state fair, exposing some of those lies. And let's see. We also got another $5 rant from O'Bannon saying Kip is a Harvard snob who is pretending to be a good old boy. And that's for sure. There was a state central convention one time where I was passing out some flyers proving that David Hand was anti-MAGA, anti-Trump. And Kip started shoving me, trying to push me out and trying to say that I had no disclosure. And I, of course, pointed right to the disclosure. I said, hey, you retard, it's right there. Learn to read. And so this guy's got a temper. And obviously he's the kind of guy who is going to be putting a blind, wheelchair-bound veteran on the ballot with a marijuana political party is not the kind of guy who people usually want as their Republican senator.
No kidding. I just quick show note. My screen, and this shows you the problems that we're having in Rumble Studio today. Like I didn't even see those Rumble rants. So once again, O'Bannon and K-Wall, thank you guys so much. Jesse, will you stay on top of that? Apparently you're getting it and I'm not getting it here.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on that topic here? I think that's great stuff. So maybe you said it, but the filing deadline ends when?
Oh, that's a good question. It ends Wednesday. So I believe it ends Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember. I'd have to. It's
Okay.
linked in the article to tell where it says filing, and because that's why they're rushing through this endorsing convention. I partially can't blame Wright County for wanting to put this thing together and put through an endorsement. I can understand why they would want to. Of course, you should always try to have local influence over the elections. And because of that withdrawal deadline, like you're saying, on the filing deadline being so early, they're forced to do it in this time frame if they want to have an endorsement. So
Okay,
yeah,
and I wanted to bring that up because I think people don't understand the mechanics. I think that's part of what the show is about. And I'm sorry to those that might have tuned in or tuning in later because you thought you wanted to see this Texas story, and I'll get to that here. I got cut off on the first pass on that story, but we try to do the mechanics of these things, as political operatives. And in Minnesota, the traditional campaign window is in late May to like early June. There's a 2-week window where anyone can file to run on any party, Republican or Democrat party, with ballot access. They could file to run in the primary. Okay, and then the primary in Minnesota is usually the second week of August. That determines who's the representative of party when it comes to the general election in November. In these special elections, that whole timeline gets condensed so much. For whatever reason, Tim Walz decided we're going to do a November election. I think we just kind of are, we're kind of we just are institutionalized to November elections. Okay, they don't have to be November. We're kind of institutionalized. Maybe there's some local elections too. So
yeah, that's what I was figuring. I'd figure that there might be some school boards or city council or something that that it's going on at the same time. I'd figure it's easier for the Secretary of State to have things all on the same day for collecting collecting results purposes and whatnot. So there could be a reason for why to do it in November. And it also kind of signifies to me that there may not be a special session coming up anytime soon. With everything that's gone on, with all the craziness, with all the loss of seats and whatnot, uh, by putting the general election in November, it's kind of signifying to me that they probably won't be coming in session until their scheduled time next year.
right. So, and Walz has basically alluded to the fact that they're not going to do a special session. Not that he's the most trustworthy individual out there. So the November election, they want, despite a condensed special election, they're still going to hold the primary. What is this next week? It's in August, right?
Yeah, yeah. The primary is yeah.
Do you
I
know
just
the date?
moved it off the screen, so I'd have to pull it back up here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it's in your article, the red, and I did use a hyperlink in there.
You
Um,
know, yeah,
okay,
I'll pull
so
it up in just 1 second here.
the point I'm trying to make here is the filing deadline is not 2 weeks. I think it's a week total frame, and then between the end of the filing period, and then there's a day extra where you could withdraw from it. So they're hoping that this endorsing convention scares off a bunch of Republicans, and then they withdraw from the race. And then next week is the primary, and they're all unified behind one candidate. That's not going to happen here, right? Clearly, it's not going to happen. There, and I would imagine people like Kip, who will lose, will decide, you know what, I'm going to go to the primary anyhow. They don't have any higher principles or anything like that.
Yeah, and he hasn't even actually filed quite yet. The Republicans who have filed so far are Rachel Davis, Jason Franzen, Tina Dydberg, Michael Holstrom, and Melinda Mihalov. So we'll
And they
have
don't have
to
to file.
see there. And I'm looking at the candidate filings page. So you had asked the candidate filing period. People can file up until August 6th. What's today, the 5th, right?
Yeah, tomorrow then.
Yep. So tomorrow is the final day for people to be able to file for office. And then the withdrawal deadline is the 7th. So the withdrawal is on Thursday. Tomorrow is the final day that people can file. So they're giving people basically a 2-day window after this SD29 GOP endorsing convention to drop out of the race.
Okay. And how many total candidates do we have in this race?
Well, there's 5 that are seeking the endorsement currently. And then if you add the other 2 that I mentioned, Nora and Rachel, then we could be up to 7. So, but there's 5 seeking the endorsement today.
Okay, gotcha. And then one last thing I want to touch on is, it's kind of funny watching the so-called politicos talk about these races, and some people's livelihood is attached to it, so they have to pretend like a race is competitive. This seat will be Republican. Like the Democrats will not win here. This is a solidly red district. Bruce Anderson, what is it, like a 65-35 district for
Right
Republicans?
over that, it's over 2/3.
Yeah, so it's like this thing is, even in a special election, it's going to stay Republican. There is a chance a Republican could win in Nicole Mitchell's district. That's a little different story. The dynamics aren't as big there. It's a toss-up. It's lean Democrat. Here, this one is like solidly red. So
And as
whoever
far
emerges,
I tried to look into it. At least I haven't found it. But I don't know if the Democrats are going to be holding an endorsing convention for that race, because we have the 2 Democrat state house members that are going to be competing for it. So as far as it looks like now, I think they're just going right to a primary, because I couldn't find any information indicating that a endorsing convention was going to take place.
gotcha. Okay, perfect. Good reporting there, Jesse. Are we missing any comments here? Because since I'm not able to see them, I don't want to miss anybody before I move on to the next subject.
Yeah, it's funny. It's not popping up on my end either here, but I do have a separate page here where it's saying we do have a. Let's see here.
And we apologize because I have no idea what's going on. I've never seen something like this.
Let's see. O'Bannon said, I thought David Hand was Kip's political mentor. And Becky Hack says, off topic, but just tried replying to Eric Mortensen on the MNGOP X account. I am blocked by the MNGOP. Wow. So Becky Hack is saying that she's blocked on Twitter by the Republican Party. That's ridiculous. What is the Republican Party so afraid of? Is the Republican Party blocking people that are more conservative than them? That is ridiculous.
Well, they got to block a lot of people then. Okay, speaking of GOP, let's go to this next topic because we got a nice little comparison to another state's GOP. This is brought to you by John Galt Mortgage Company. If you're looking to buy a home, give the guys at John Galt Mortgage a chance at financing that home. You can go to johngaltmortgage.com, or you can check them out on Facebook or X, where they got a top-notch meme game. They believe the same things that you and I believe in. They're great dudes, and there are women that work there too. Shouldn't just say dudes, but I know the Chermak brothers. So awesome guys. I started that company. Give them a try if you're buying a home at financing that home. Also brought to you by Alpine Cabinetry in St. Cloud, Minnesota. Okay, this was going to be the lead-in story here today, so I apologize to anyone that was coming here to learn more about the story, and then all of a sudden we're not talking about it. So for those that don't know, in Minnesota, most of our audience knows because you heard a coverage of it. The Democrats, led by Melissa Hortman, by the way, that's apparently Kip Christensen's mentor, boycotted the beginning of the legislative session. They didn't even show up. Day one of the legislative session, many who had never even served before, first-time people, decided to take a secret oath of office in a secret ceremony, which we even look at the Constitution. It says like they swear in that day. Like they don't swear in before; they swear in on the first day of the legislative session, and then they offer up their election certificate. The Democrats didn't even show up. They boycotted. Jesse, what was it? It feels like it was 5 weeks, or was it 3 weeks? It was some odd
Yeah,
number of
I know.
weeks.
I feel like it was 20 some odd days. I can't remember exactly what it was now, but yeah,
I thought
it was
3 weeks.
somewhere in that range for sure, 3 to 5 weeks.
It was okay. So it went into February for sure. Yeah, I think it was closer to 3 weeks. So, but it felt like 5 weeks. It was interesting stuff. And the Republicans, day one, took over the legislative session like they should have, installed their own person, like literally everything we called for them doing. And then they lost the Supreme Court case, which was ridiculous. The Supreme Court said that you had to have a
And
68
they gave up.
person quorum, and then they literally just gave up. They didn't try to get arrested. They didn't try to find these people. Democrats were receiving paychecks. All this was over the fact that Republicans were finally standing up and saying, you know what, we care about election integrity, and we're going to make sure that these 21 ballots that were thrown in the trash can in House District 54A, where Brad Tapke won, we're going to look at that race and possibly call for a new election. And that was what the Democrats had a conniption over and didn't even show up to work. That's who the Democrats are. Well, now let's enter Texas, the great state of Texas. We're seeing the same kind of thing play out. Now, if you guys remember, Texas actually did this, Democrats there did this in 2021 as well. The headline from the left-leaning Texas Tribune says, Texas House issues arrest warrants for Democrats who left state to block congressional redistricting. This is their Speaker of the House right here, Justin Burrows. The Texas House voted Monday afternoon to track down and arrest more than 50 Democratic-led lawmakers who were not present when the chamber gavelled in. After the 85-6 vote, House Speaker Dustin Burrows said he would immediately sign civil warrants for each of the legislators, empowering the chamber's sergeant-at-arms and state troopers to arrest and bring them to the Capitol. They will not face civil or criminal charges from the arrest. The warrants apply only within state lines, making them largely symbolic, as most of the legislators in question decamped to Illinois, New York, and Massachusetts to forestall passage of the GOP's proposed redraw of Texas's congressional map. The House used the same tactic to try to force Democrats back to work in 2021 when a majority of them left for Washington, D.C. to protest GOP voting restrictions. Some lawmakers challenged the warrants in court, obtaining an obstruction against arrest that was later struck down by the Texas Supreme Court. While the Texas Constitution enables quorum breaking by a minority faction of the legislature, it likewise authorizes quorum forcing by remaining members, the court ruled. Okay, so let's get into what is happening here in this case. Just yesterday, the House Speaker, they passed a resolution, as I mentioned, 85-6, that will lead to warrants for the arrest. Now, that is somewhat symbolic in the sense that no one believes they have jurisdiction outside the state of Minnesota or outside of the state of Texas. The interesting thing, Jesse, is we didn't even go that far in Minnesota after 3 weeks. Like, this is day 2, and they're already issuing warrants for arrest, compelling members to show up to work. Democrats in Minnesota didn't even leave the state. They didn't need to. They were supposedly hanging around in their districts. They literally were taunting Republicans by going, well, I was meeting with constituents to say that they were still working, collecting a paycheck. Now, if you guys watch this show, you probably dislike politicians like you and like Jesse and me. It's just like another one of those things, rules for thee, but not for me. Like, imagine you didn't go to work, but you collected a paycheck. Like, you're fired. Your ass is fired. And these guys do it all the time. This seems to be the new thing that's going to happen whenever the Democrats don't get their way, is they're just literally not going to show up, but they're still going to collect the paycheck. So Democrats in Texas now have an active warrant for their arrest. They're hiding out in different states, similar to what they did in 2021, similar to what Wisconsin Democrats did when they were trying to uphold reform changes by Scott. What the hell is Scott's name? I can't think of his name.
Barry?
No, Scott, the former governor of Wisconsin. Why am I brain fart? Scott
Scott
Walker.
Walker.
Sorry, Scott Walker. And that was like over 10 years ago. So yeah, they also, the Republicans also are fining them $500 a day. Now, this is a special session which only goes through August 19th, and there's a lot of things that are getting done, including flood aid and stuff like that. But Greg Abbott, the governor, has the ability to call back the legislature for a special session anytime. So technically, even though Democrats might be looking at the clock and going, we have till August 19th to hang out in Illinois, Abbott can just call another special session. So that tactic doesn't really work. Here's the other thing. They're a part-time legislature as well. Most of them probably have jobs outside the legislature, and they can't afford to be leaving those jobs, right? How many of them are school teachers? Don't they have to start school in like a month, right? They also, I got to imagine $500 a day. Is that business days or is that all days? It's probably all days, you know. I'm guessing most of these guys can't afford being fined $3,500 a week. Plus family, you know. So that's one side of the story. The other side of the story, and the Republicans in Texas seem to be interested in pursuing this, is it's also illegal, and I don't know what statute that they're quoting, but like illegal to aid people. God, they had a language for this, but it was like to aid with people breaking the law. And that would be like people that are trying to raise money to have these guys leave the state. So I should have fact checked this. So I shouldn't even say it because I saw something on social media of like one of the Democrats getting off a private jet. I don't have that fact checked. You guys can fact check right now. But most likely they didn't all drive. And even if they drove to like Illinois and New York and Massachusetts, I mean, no one really believes they drove. They're buying a plane ticket. And maybe some are flying on private jets, which is really costly. But even if they're buying plane tickets, that could be pretty costly. Where's the money coming from? Is there a money funneling operation to get these guys to not follow, the law? So that's another, I think, interesting wrinkle of this whole thing is that these people. And let me ask you this question: Are they housing themselves? You know, are the people that are paying them to not work and I don't know, forgo their current job? You know, because if you're going to find $3,500 a day, or is someone going to help pay for that $3,500 a day fine? There could be a lot of implications here, and we're on day one. And I just think about like what happened in Minnesota. They were talking a tough game here in Minnesota for the longest time. Like, we're not going to let Democrats get away with it. And that's where the infamous Tuesday Walter thing came from. And I'll go back to memory lane here for those that are been watching the show for a while. Walter Hudson, who's Jesse's favorite legislator, talked tough about, hey, why would we listen to these politicians, these Democrats? They don't get a stake at the table in negotiations because of what they're doing. Here's Tuesday Walter in his own words.
Sure, I haven't been personally privy to or part of those negotiation discussions. What I will say is I'm not sure what there is to negotiate. Again, you applied for a job, you got it, you're supposed to show up. That you don't get to offer terms and conditions under which you're going to do that for which you volunteered to do and were elected to do.
And he gets applause from all the activists, including the patriot Carla Nelson, who's in attendance there. We love Carla Nelson because he's right. And we love Tuesday Walter. What we don't like is Wednesday Walter, because the next day, all of a sudden, the Democrats won a big negotiation. I mean, they basically took, like, Jesse and I didn't have nice things to say about Melissa Hortman after she was killed. But we did have one thing that was, I think even Democrats could cheer on, that we said that was nice about her, is that she always got the best of Republicans, like always, right? And yeah, they did. They literally got the Democrats or the Republicans to concede on the House District 54A race. They didn't face any consequences. They got their paychecks just fine. They won't feel any pain at election time. No one's going to even really remember that issue. Democrats won wholeheartedly on that issue. and that's what I see, Jesse, going on. That's why I thought this was just such an interesting story, is because this is now happening in Oregon and Texas and Minnesota, and I'm probably forgetting some other states that this has happened in. This is going to become, like, I think what Democrats use in areas that they're not as effective in. Because if you remember, Republicans have governing majorities in the vast majority of states in the United States, right? That's what's so interesting about Minnesota is we're like the one, like, middle America state that Democrats have dominated. And even in Minnesota, like, Democrats don't even have a majority anymore, right? They split the House, and it wasn't that long ago. It was 2017, where Republicans had the whole legislature and the Democrats had the governorship. So anyhow, I thought that was a fascinating story. I wanted to share that with you guys.
Yeah, and I see we got KWell for Life saying Democrats treat election integrity like a vegan at a Texas cookout, lots of moral seasoning, but they're sneaking bites when no one's looking. That's a good point because on the issue of election integrity, we really can't take the Democrats' word at all. When not that I'm necessarily taking the Republicans' word on the Texas redistricting, but of course I don't have the time and detail to be able to look at the Texas map and determine where I think the congressional line should be. So we're going to have to take someone's word for it a little bit here. And but it's true that, of course, the Democrats, they don't care about election integrity. And when the Republicans in the State House of Representatives of Minnesota were putting up the fight in the very beginning of this legislative session, the Truth Hurts and Action for Liberty were singing their praises and telling people that the Republicans were doing the right thing and that they were fighting. It wasn't until after that they flipped and they allowed Brad Tabke, a radical Democrat, to be seated, even though there was all of the massive election integrity in his race. That Action for Liberty began to expose what the House GOP was doing in that session. There, they had the leverage, they had the everything on their side, but they decided to cave because the liberal Supreme Court was telling them to do something unconstitutional and giving a pass to the Democrats who truly were failing to do their jobs that they were elected to by the people.
Jay Last says, "Hi all. I read that Kash Patel has been asked to help track down these cowardly Texas Democrats. I think Kash Patel should be more interested in rounding up all the politicians on the Jeffrey Epstein list, to be honest with you. Let Texas figure that part out." Let's see here. Razzle Dazzle received a quote by Alpine Country last month. They do really nice work. Well, thank you very much. Of course they do. I don't just advertise these people because they're supportive of the show or because they're conservatives. It's also they do good work. I think we should probably do some vetting to make sure you guys are getting good vendors, just like John Gall Mortgage Company and Warren Wessel of Keller Williams Realty, to be honest with you. All right, Jesse, let's move on to the next subject. I always like to add those advertisements in the transition, and Razzle Dazzle did the work for us. I love it, Razzle Dazzle. So Jesse, I haven't even looked into the story. I saw one headline. I think it was TikTok,
Libs of TikTok.
Okay, so tell me about this story. I think you just published this article on actionforliberty.com.
Yep.
Islamic Center writes support letter for a Somali convicted child rapist. Could it be? Let's get into this.
Yeah, so Minnesota is slipping further and further into third world territory by accepting thousands upon thousands of lowly educated Islamic refugees from failed nations like Somalia. The issue has spiraled into out-of-control fraud schemes and barbaric violence from Somalis in our state committing some of the worst crimes known to man that are excused by Democrats and Muslim mosques. 42-year-old Somalian, Quayleen Ibrahim Diary, was convicted to a 12-year prison sentence for raping a 12-year-old girl in Minneapolis last year. 12 years is the lowest amount of prison time recommended by MN sentencing guidelines for first-degree criminal sexual assault. Diary is currently locked up at the Minnesota Correctional Facility in St. Cloud, and it is not immediately clear if Diary is even a citizen of the United States. This sentencing decision was made by District Judge Michael E. Burns, who was appointed to the 4th Judicial District by Democrat Governor Mark Dayton in 2016. Burns made the decision on this case following a unanimous jury conviction, and according to court records, Burns was the third judge assigned to this case. I don't know exactly why that was what happened there, but two other judges had come before him before this case was assigned to him. So I also include his picture in there just so people can know who the judge was that is allowing this Somali child rapist, to be free as soon as possible. So the case number for this case is 27-CR-24-17247. So if anybody wants to look it up in the Minnesota court record search, all they have to do is put in that number, or they can put his name, the criminal's name, in, and they'll be able to find all of the details of this case. And on July 21st, the court put documents.
Real quick, sorry, Jesse, before you get
Yep.
to this part, do we know anything about this 12-year-old girl he raped? Is this somebody?
Yeah, I
inside
linked that in there. So it's and it's crazy to say that a 12-year sentence is all that this guy gets for something like that. He should be getting life in prison. He should be getting the death sentence.
Well, it looks like it says could face up to 30 years in prison. But
Yeah, that's an old article that just gives a little more context and preliminary info to people.
But do we know anything about this girl? Is she a Somali as well? Is this inside their community? Because as we get to like Islamic Center talking about an early release, like, is it because she's some, white gal and they don't really care? Or is it someone like they don't?
Yeah, no, I don't know anything about the victim.
Okay.
But that aside, there were documents put into the record with people testifying on behalf of Diary's character. And so there was all these people as family members putting in these quotes for him and saying how great of a guy he is.
Yeah, can we just read this here real quick?
Yeah.
All right, so the girl... On June 10th, officers responded to Hennepin County Medical Center to take a criminal sexual conduct report. The girl at 12 reported to her school counselor that she was sexually assaulted. She was taken to HCMC. A sexual assault exam was performed on the victim. The resulting kit was taken to the BCA for analysis. Can you imagine that with a 12-year-old girl? That is so sad. The girl said she'd seen Diary driving past her house often. That's his name, right?
Yep.
Okay, Diary. And that he drives a white four-door Toyota, according to the criminal complaint. She was playing in her backyard one day when the man stopped behind her home in the alley, got out to talk to her, and asked if her mom was home, prosecutors said. When she told him no, he left but returned 10 minutes later, according to authorities. When he came back, he put his hand over her mouth and picked her body up with his other hand, forced her into the car, and struck her in the head, which caused her to feel dizzy and disoriented, police said. Wait a second. This guy was only sentenced for rape? That sounds like kidnap and assault.
Right.
All right. Jury drove away from her house for a couple blocks, pulled over, got into the back seat with her, and raped her, according to the criminal complaint. Nearly 2 months later, on July 29th, the girl's brother looked at her cell phone and saw multiple calls from Mohammed Muse that his sister was not answering, police said. The girl told her brother that it was the man who sexually assaulted her on June 5th, the criminal complaint states. When Mohammed Muse called the girl's phone again, the brother answered but did not speak. Mohammed Muse said, "Hey, beautiful, I miss you. When can I see you again?" according to the criminal complaint. Okay. Holy shit. The brother hung up and began texting with Mohammed Muse through Snapchat, pretending to be his sister, police said. Mohammed Muse referred to bringing condoms to see the girl, according to authorities. The girl's brother sent Mohammed Muse their home address, and Mohammed Muse said he was 14 minutes away. In an interview later, the brother told officers he did this because he wanted to identify the man. Jury arrived, and when he saw the brothers and girl's stepfather waiting for him in the living room, he tried to flee, police said. However, the brother stood in front of the door while 911 was called, the criminal complaint states. Jury was arrested while being transported in the squad car. He said, she told me she is 19 years old. I don't know why, according to authorities. Holy shit. Okay.
Yep.
I think that needs to be added in this article. Holy crap. All right. Continue on.
And on July 21st, the court put documents into the record with people testifying on behalf of Diary's character and talking about how great of a man he is. So included in these testimonies was the ISON Islamic Center with a, quote, community support letter for this individual. And I put the full letter below, something that Alpha News and these other ones haven't done. Maybe they just weren't sure how to find the document, but I was able to find it through all the court records. And so this is the first time I've seen the full record here, and people can check that out for themselves. But as seen within there, the Muslim mosque is praising Diary as a family man father that faced, quote, the challenge of starting over in a new culture, end quote, and alleges that Diary has, quote, never been involved in conflict, end quote, in the years that they knew him. So they say never one bit of conflict. And they suggest that he has made a positive difference And as many know, Islamic teachings tell their followers that deception is not only permitted, but obligatory in some cases. And the Islamic Center is advocating for a judge to go soft on a child rapist simply because he is a Somali Muslim within their community. And as mentioned previously, Judge Burns gave Diary the lightest recommended sentence, and Minnesota laws allow for Diary to be released as soon as 2023 and be placed on probation. So crooked Minnesota politicians and judges have fallen victim to a radical Muslim contingency that demands that they face no responsibility or repercussions for their actions. The influx of Somalis and other Muslims has led to the Islamic mosques advocating for child rapists. And if now is not a drawing line in the sand, nothing else will be. In the case of Diary, we see yet another example of violence from a group of Muslim immigrants who cannot and will not assimilate themselves into American culture. This is a big story. I hopefully we can see a separation between Democrats from this radical branch of Islam, but of course they're afraid to call it out. They're all about identity politics, and especially with these Somalis, they let these Somalis get away with everything, and it's because they don't want all of this out there. We got Keith Ellison, another Muslim, as our Attorney General. So he, of course, doesn't want to hold these Muslims accountable either. It looks bad for these Somalis to have all of this crime, but it's obvious to anyone that can be on, that sees clearly that, of course, these Somalis have come in here. It's crime ridden now. They're turning places into ghettos. And in my opinion, I don't want a single another Muslim refugee coming into the state of Minnesota. We've had our fill. We've had enough. And I think now is the drawing line.
Okay, so El Ishan Islamic Center Inc. What do we know about that? Is that just like a community Islamic center? Like,
right, and they say that they say that he attended there. They're saying that he's a member of their community.
that's like their
must have
mosque.
been-
Is that what they like, the incorporation of their mosque? Do we know that?
Yeah, I don't know. It is a mosque, but yeah, I mean, I linked their Facebook page on there, so people can see that.
I mean, like, when you look at that story, and that's not a court document or testimony in court, but I would imagine that was true, the journalism that occurred there, and that whatever that linked story was.
Yeah.
Do you remember what the source was on that?
I can find out.
Well, I mean, you're talking about, like, well, first of all, a 12-year-old, like, that is pedophilia, right? Like, that's prepubescent, most likely. So pedophiles
That was
are
patch.com.
okay. So, like, pedophiles are like that is like the worst of it all. Like, I was trying to think about this. Like, what is the psychology of a pedophile? And that is like got to be somebody that just wants power over an individual, because there's just like no chance a kid has, right, against a full-grown adult. Okay, so it's got to be like this power mentality. So I mean, like, we're talking about deep, really bad, and something that you probably can't just kick. And I think proof of that is it's not like he did it one time. He came back and he's texting with this individual. I mean, like, that is somebody you can't have free. Like, that is just that person's going to do it
Right,
again.
he is going to violate the law again when he gets out.
And you have to do everything as a society to protect innocent children. And so it's not like it's just one dumb judge or one parole board here. It's like you have an Islamic center, like, advocating for this guy. I mean, that's absolute craziness.
And if you read the entire letter, I don't think they ever address what he's being accused of once. They basically just say, this is not the man that we know. He's always been this wonderful person. And just as you're reading through all those letters, you know that they're lying. You know that this is written by lawyers and whatnot to sound as professional as possible and to give him to put him in the best light. Considering these Muslims are they're told to lie within the Quran, they're going to protect their own. And it's obvious that a lot of Somalians, because they're coming from this third world undeveloped country, they do not have they don't have the cultural norms, and they don't have the ability to succeed in America. They're only going, this is the kind of person I'd love to see him get the death penalty, if not deport him to Somalia, send him back into the Civil War, because it shouldn't be the American people or Minnesota's obligation to even pay for this guy to stay alive. This is a horrific crime. Of course, he is still denying it, but and this judge should be held to account too for giving him the lightest possible sentence that he could. It just shows how corrupt this thing is. And Becky Hack says on Rumble, Jake interviewed an expert on Islam. When you broadcasted with Jack, I hope this isn't a surprise to you. And Tucker says pedophilia is very common within those communities. Their religion condones it because he says Muhammad was a pedo. And Becky Hackenmuller says, don't forget that the Somali community is the non-traditional Republican voters that Walter Hudson was hired by the MNGOP to recruit. And that's true. Let's not forget that there's a lot of Republicans out there that say that we need to be courting the Muslim vote and bring them in, which obviously I wouldn't mind them voting for a conservative rather than a Democrat, but we are not going to have the Republican Party changed in the process of doing that. And they want to make everyone soft. They want to make everyone these liberal people that accept everyone for their beliefs and whatnot. And there's no way to do that with a lot of Muslims because they don't have the same mutual respect.
Well, I don't like painting broad brushes. I think people need to be judged by individually by their character and their decisions, and they're obviously good people in the Muslim community.
This is a trend, Jake.
Well, yeah, that's the problem.
This is the kind of thing that we're seeing it a lot happening within the Somalis.
Right. Well, you didn't let me finish.
All kinds of stabbings, all kinds of murders, all kinds of rape and whatnot.
You didn't let me finish, Jesse. So what I'm trying to say is I try to judge people by individuals. There's no doubt a problem inside that community. Oh, another fraud case in Minnesota. Gee, I wonder what community's involved in it. Let's just say it out loud. That's what's going on. It's done by Somalis. Does that mean every Somali is a bad person? No. In many regards, because I don't think Islam's a good religion, but there's a lot of Muslims who are more westernized, maybe not your traditional practicing Muslims, and that's a good thing because I think the peaceful side of that religion really needs to flourish because there's a really dark side of that religion, and that's not any good. And I think we forget about that too much in this country. It's been
that's the thing. Of course, I'm not saying that any Muslim is a bad person. I don't think that at all. I'm just saying that we're seeing this trend happening within the Somali and the Muslim community. 100%. We're seeing that they cannot conform themselves to American culture. They're not willing to abide by our laws. And these are people that are really guests. I don't know guests to our country. I was also, one last thing I was going to say is that I endorsed Fadil Jama to run against Lee Finke in my own race of 66A. So obviously I couldn't be 100% totally anti-Islam or anti-Muslim or whatever. But and honestly, the main reason for that one was because no Republican is winning in my district. So it didn't really matter. I was just happy that there was a Republican besides me that was filed to run. But, that's why I guess, of course, I don't want to paint with a broad brush either, but we're seeing this happen way too often. And at a certain point, we have to call it as it is. And this is a problem happening within Muslims and the Somali communities.
Well, but that's the thing, though, Jesse.
Disproportionately.
I know, but I want to push back. In here, I don't really think it's because it's not an issue of Iraqi Minnesotans or Iranian Minnesotans, it's Turkish Minnesotans. It seems to be an issue with Somali Minnesotans, right? There is something about that country and the culture over there, and I don't think it takes an expert to know what's going on there. And we're going to go to our post show. If you are a subscriber, we'd love to have you join us in our post show on Locals. If you're not, I'm dropping the link right now here. You can join us on our post show. We'll talk a little bit about Trump and Israel and Epstein and some new stuff going on there. We'll wrap up the story on this, what we were talking about here. I'll be over there.
I'm also seeing O'Bannon saying that I chickened out against Finke. I mean, I would have gotten 25%. I don't think I would have